What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and I'll be like this video. This is Power Book 2, Season 2, Episode 2. It's a whole lot of twos in there. 222. Okay? So, we are back where we started, you guys. Last week, I gave this episode, I gave it the benefit of the doubt. But this episode, I just got a lot of questions. Okay? So, we start this episode off. We have Tariq dreaming. We got Kanan with him. And he is standing over the inferno, you know, hearing his mother's instructions about burn it, burn it, burn it. He's got the phone in his hand, and, you know, you got Kanan telling him, listen, you know what you need to do. You need to get rid of this phone. Because remember, we saw in last week's episode that the police have linked this phone to the murder of Jabari, right? And Tariq is like, no. You see his hesitation because that is his last link to his mama. Now, in the back of his mind, he thinks that he's going to hear from his mama again. I hate to be the one to tell you, Tariq, it's probably not going to happen. He gets rocked out of his sleep by the police banging on his door. And they're like, we need to talk to you. You need to come down to the precinct. And, of course, he's like, for what? They were like, just get your clothes and come on. Now, I don't understand why the police couldn't be nice to him. Because when he gets to the police station, he's there because his grandmama got caught in a DUI. And they called him down there because his little sister is there. And so I didn't understand why the police couldn't just say, hey, it's a family situation. We need you to come with us as soon as possible. But they made it seem like he was in trouble or something, like he had done something wrong. Now, we know Tariq generally is the person that he did something wrong. But in this case, it wasn't his fault. He gets to the police station, and who does he see? Sachs, whatever. And Sachs is able to sweet talk a friend of a friend and get his grandmama so that she doesn't have to stay in jail. Only have to stay in jail overnight. They're trying to get the whole thing reduced, right? But in the meantime, guess who ends up having to go into foster care because Tariq is not an adult. He's he's a minor. Well, he's over 18 at this point, but because he lives on a college dorm, like I guess if he had his own apartment or something, but they said him living in a college dorm. So the sister is now in foster care, and y'all already know now Tariq got a whole nother set of family issues he has to deal with, which is keeping him distracted from the shit he really supposed to be dealing with as far as running his drug enterprise, which is going to be a problem later on. We're going to get there. So, the other thing we see going on, we see Kane, he's still hanging out with the gang dude, you know, gold teeth gang boy. They're hanging out, and he gets a text from Mecca telling him that he needs to see him and he needs to meet up. So he ditches the gang boy to go meet up with Mecca. Then we see Tate meeting up with Simon, and Simon is like, listen, Simon treated him like he was a do boy, right? He thinking that he about to have this whole meeting with Simon, and Simon was like, yeah, all that, cut all the pleasantries, cut all the bullshit. At the end of the day, I need a favor from you. And you know, Tate was like, well, you know, that if you help me, I'll help you type of situation. And he was like, I need your support for running for this congressional seat. I need to get as much dirt on, you know, my opponent as possible. What can you do? And Simon was like, listen, I'm about to send you up here to the college, and you can get in good with the Westons, and the Westons know this dude, and that's the best I can do. But I need you to go be an adjunct professor and take Jabari's place. It'll be good to have you on campus. It'll do yada, 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 and boo, 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 whatever. And, of course, Ted ain't trying to hear it at first until he realizes that maybe he can hobnob with the right people down to the college. So, he shows up at Mecca's place. And, of course, Mecca's got this nice spread, right? It's beautiful apartment and all that good stuff. And Mecca is like, listen, what you did last week was reckless and it was stupid. And it was really unnecessary. Like, you ain't have to put on no whole show for me. And Kane was like, ain't nobody putting on no show. Like, I was born into this. Like, this is what I do. This is how I was raised. Like, me, my brother, and my sister, we all gangsters. And Mecca was like, well, listen, you was asking me a bunch of questions. Now it's my turn to interview you. And Mecca starts asking him all these questions about his daddy, about his mama, about the game, about how they grew up and all that other stuff. And, you know, Kane was like, is this a damn job interview? Like, what's going on? And just at that moment, who come knocking on the door down to the, cause he's in like, you know, a high rise apartment. So they at the front desk, damn gang boy. So so Mecca had already told Kane, I need you to be more aware of your surroundings, because he like snuck up on Kane, and Kane was like, yo, where you come from? And he was like, I'm gonna need you to pay more attention and pay better attention to your surroundings, okay? So he tells him to come up, even though he was pissed off about it. He was like, you just let him follow you here? Like, you didn't see him following you to my house? Like, bro, I just told you, you got to do better. So he was just getting ready to introduce Kane and let Kane work for him and get into business. But once that happened, he was like, he tells him, he said, you ain't ready yet. And in the process, he ends up breaking Game Boy's fingers one at a time while he explains to Kane why he ain't ready for the next move, for the ins and the outs. And of course, Kane is pissed off because he's like, damn, like I was in there, like I was almost in there. But in that moment, I immediately started thinking, who is Mecca? Mecca was asking certain questions that I didn't think were necessary for Mecca to be asking for what it was he was trying to do. So that gave me a little ting. Okay. Now, last week we had a little bit of criticism about the grandmother and how they done turned the grandmama into a whole drunk, and we had never seen no parts of her being a drunk before. But we had this conversation with her and Malik, and Malik, Tariq shit. And she is starting to like explain why she's doing what she's doing, and that she's having a little bit of a drink. She was like, first I lost Raina, then I lost your daddy, then I lost your mama, and I'm stressed out, and I'm 60-something years old, and I did not sign up to be a full-time mama. This is not what I do. So if I want to have a drink from time to time, I can have a drink from time to time. She said, listen, Raina was supposed to be at a sleepover with her friends, okay? The sleepover situation didn't work out, and here I am. I got to go pick her up. So yeah, I was a little drunk, a little inebriated, but she said she wasn't drunk, but she was drunk. So I guess that was their way of trying to explain why the grandmother then turned into a whole drunk. But again, what they really had to do was figure out a way to get Raina in foster care and make it look halfway believable. So I guess that's what it is. Because now, where's Tariq? Tariq is back down, hanging out. Sorry. Tariq is back down with Method Man and Sax now, because now he needs a lawyer, because he needs somebody to help him get his sister out of foster care. Now, Sax was able to get the grandmama, get it bust down to some sort of misdemeanor charge, but the grandmother has to, but Raina can't go back to the grandmother, even though she's not in jail anymore. Raina can't go back. I keep saying Raina, my bad, not Raina. The other daughter child, Raina dead, not Raina. The other child, y'all know who I'm talking about. Y'all know I'm talking about Raina. But she, but the baby girl can't go back to grandma until the whole case has been resolved, right? So Tariq is desperate. He's trying to get his sister out of foster care, get his sister home. And Method Man was like, listen, that is out of my wheelhouse. I don't have no expertise in that situation. You need to hide mom with the right people in the right places. You know, that's the best I can do. In the meantime, Tariq was trying to tell him, listen, Sax can't be trusted. Like, you don't know him like I know him. He cannot be trusted. Method Man was like, hell, what makes you think I trust him? Like, you think he doing me? I promise you, I'm doing him, you know. And so now Tariq, like, you caught between two wolves, bro. You are caught between two wolves. I don't know what to tell you. So back up to the college, Tay shows up for his first day of work. And of course, Carrie ass is not here for it. She ain't feeling it. She not happy about it. She was like, so they just figure that they can just put any old black person in to take Jabari's spot. And that is just not what this is about. And Tate, of course, is being Tate. He's flirting with her, and he's trying to turn on the charm, and she is just not here for it. She tells him, your office is being used by the police, and, you know, why don't you sit out of class today? Which, of course, he was like, oh, no, I think it's the perfect opportunity for me to meet my class. She was like, whatever, bro, whatever. Now, this police officer, he got a hard on for Carrie, okay? At the end of the day, what it boils down to is him and Carrie used to date. He has decided that Carrie killed Jabari. I don't know where he got that from, other than he just has a whole personal issue with Carrie. There's no reason, there's no evidence, there's nothing to suggest that Carrie had anything to do with Jabari dying. I don't even know where this is coming from. But he is going hard in the paint to try to prove that Carrie killed Jabari. He done went and visited her sponsor. Now, remember, Carrie is in Sex Anonymous. So, he done went to visit her sponsor. The sponsor tried to not talk to her. Talk to him. But he told the sponsor, well, you know that, like that's not a real good just because you her sponsor, that's not a reason to not talk to the police. Like that's not protected. That's not like attorney-client privilege. That ain't protected. So she basically tells all the business, and then she tries to call Carrie later and tell Carrie what was going on. Carrie was in class and couldn't answer the phone. So then she finally tells Carrie, listen, I think you might need to find a new sponsor. Hell, you already told all my business that. We might as well keep going. Like, you already said it now. While all of this is going on, child, Zeke is having a press conference to announce that he's going into the draft. Now, here's what's stupid. At the end of the press conference, Mary J. Blige is going to stand her ass up and tell everybody that he ain't taking no questions. And then she going to say, she going to turn to him and tell me something. You sure you ready for this? Because if you're not ready for this, you need to tell me now. Because this is the exit. And I'm like, you really sitting here having this whole conversation in front of the whole press corps? Like, y'all not even whispering. Anyway, child. Brayden is back in school cussing his brother out because his brother's trying to get him to pledge the fraternity. He don't want to pledge the fraternity, but of course, it is a family tradition. He's going to pledge that fraternity whether he wants to or not, okay? Brayden then tells Tariq, he's ready to get this party started. Tariq was like, he's like, where you been? I've been trying to call you. And Tariq was like, listen, I got this whole situation going on with my sister. Like, my bad. He was like, where you put the stash? And, he was like, oh, well, I got the stash. It's in the trunk of my car at my parents' house. Tariq was like, what? Why would you leave it? He said, listen, my parents' house is like Fort Knox. I promise you, that's the safest place for it. You tell me what you need me to do. And Tariq was like, listen, you go ahead and handle that. Like, I got other stuff going on. He was like, you sure you trust me? He was like, yo, we've been doing this for years. Like, I trust you. You good. And I said, and this is what we're talking about with Tariq being distracted. Okay. Now, down to the bar, Monet is trying to get the bar back in order, trying to get the, because she said, listen, as long as this bar is shut down, we don't have nowhere to wash our money. So we need to get the bar done as quickly as possible, as fast as possible, so that we can get back in business and we can start, we can run our money through here again. Now, Diana tells her mama, listen, Ma, I want to go to school. I want to go ahead and get my MBA. Now, first of all, girl, you got to have an undergrad degree before you can get somebody's MBA. So I don't even know where this whole MBA conversation came from. But she talking about I want to get my MBA. And she was like, oh, you just trying to get down there to that college to hang out with Tariq. I know what you're doing. She was like, no, for real. Like, if we really going to take over Tariq's career and really run his career, most athletes go broke within 5 years. Like, we really need to make sure that we doing right by his money so it can last if this is really our exit plan. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, he's literally going into the draft now, like at the end of this season. Girl, in what universe are you getting an undergrad degree and a MBA in 6 months? What world is that happening in? Now, I understand her idea of wanting to go to school and wanting to, live, like learn and live and all that good stuff. But the flip side of that is that just don't make no sense. And for once, I gotta agree with Mary J. Blige. Girl, go sit down somewhere because that don't even make no damn sense. I mean, the sentiment is in the right place, but at the end of the day, girl, that ain't happening. That ain't happening. Now, while they having this conversation, somebody drives by the bar blasting "Can You Stand the Rain" by New Edition in a red Camaro. And as soon as I saw it, and Mary J. Blige stopped everything she was doing, ran over to that window, and she was staring at that car like she knew who that was driving that car, I said, that's Mecca. And him and Mary J. Blige got a whole history that we about to find out about. Like, in my mind, that's what it had told me, right? So we get into class, and y'all know how they do in class. In class, they talking about, we got Tate in there, and of course he is shocked when he sees Tariq. We got Carrie in there, and the conversation they're talking about Thomas Paine's Leviathan, which is actually a really good book to read, essay/book, whatever, to read. It is really, really good. They use it in a lot of political science classes, historical classes, constitution classes, all that good stuff. But neither here nor there, they're talking about the act of giving and being selfless. What is selfish and a selfless act? Like, can we be? And they were having this whole debate about, even when you think you're doing something for selfless reason, I mean, even when you're doing a selfless act, you're still doing it for something else, even if it's just for self-satisfaction to say, oh, I'm going to give this homeless person $20. And yes, that is selfless of me, but it's making me feel good. So you're still doing it for some sort of satisfaction. And it was actually a pretty good debate. But of course, what did Tariq take away from that? Well, if I do something for you, you do something for me. So after class, he approaches Tate about, listen, can you help me out? Can you help me get my sister out of foster care? Like, you know people who know people who know people. And you know I know you ain't shit, so can you help me out? And Tate was like, well, that all depends. Do you know any Westerns? And of course he does. Braden is a Western. He went hunting with the Westerns last week. And Tariq sort of hesitates a little bit, but then he eventually says, yeah, I do. And so he was like, of course. Well, when you help me out, like, if you can help me, then I can help you. So then we see Zeke hanging out with Drew, trying to get Drew to get himself together and helping him with his hand or whatever. And Drew lets Zeke know, like, bruh, are you ready to go into the draft? Because you know you are exit ticket. Like, you know that this whole you going into the draft early is our way out of the business. Like, are you ready for that? And he was like, what you mean? And he was like, well, wherever you go, we going. If you get drafted to LA, we going to LA. If you get drafted to Miami, we going to where that is in Florida. But we going to Miami. If you get drafted to the damn Cavaliers, we going to be in Cleveland. Like, we going to be right there with you. And Zeke was like, I don't know about all that. Like, I wasn't ready to bring the whole family with me. And while he's there, this sports agent comes in, because he doesn't have a manager. He don't have no sort of agent or nothing. So a sports agent comes in to talk to him. And I was like, yeah, that's about to be trouble right there, okay? So while Tariq is talking to Tate, here comes this detective. He coming to talk to Tariq, and he's asking Tariq questions about, Jabari, and asking questions about Carrie, and whether he saw anything with them that was inappropriate or that was out of pocket. And so Tariq sees the perfect opportunity to try to shift, because he said, well, they didn't buy, that the police did his story. So now this is a perfect opportunity for us to try to flip it on Carrie. So he was like, Tariq, he turns on the charm and he starts lying. Well, I did see this and I did see that, and this did happen, and that did happen. So while all this is going on, child, Braden then drove up to Stanford to try to hook up with Marissa. Isn't that her name, Marissa? Tariq, their ex-partner, to sell her some drugs. Now, she's in there having a whole moment with some chick. I don't know if it's her roommate or whatever. And she tells Braden, listen, if this is for Tariq, I ain't selling nothing for Tariq. Like, Tariq ain't shit. I already did this once and got caught up, and I ain't doing it again. And Braden is like, whatever, like, this is about making that money. Like, let's make that money. So she ends up taking the drugs from him. But she don't want to, but, she about making that money anyway. So as Braden is driving back to school, she gets a text from him saying, listen, get your ass back here now. These drugs have been stepped on. Now, stepped on isn't a bad thing. But once Braden gets back, they ain't been stepped on. They're not even drugs. It is just straight sugar, okay? So he should have been like, they wasn't stepped on, they was stepped in, okay? They was stepped in. So Braden is trying to text Tariq and and of course Tariq is off having another secret rendezvous with Kane, and Kane is trying to talk to him about, listen, what's going on with this and for Kane to play like he's so hard and he don't care about nothing and he got it all together, why are you so worried about this one murder? Like, dude, you have killed people. Why are you worried about this one situation? Like, you killed a cop, but you worried about a professor at a college? Sir, you killed a whole cop. Like, I just don't understand why he's pressing Tariq out about this one situation. And Tariq is telling him, don't worry about it. He told him that he threw, he shifted the attention to Carrie, and don't worry about it. Now, while this is going on, Sax is having sex with the lady down from the DA's office, and she ends up letting him know, listen, I'm on the Jabari case, and the police detectives seem to think that it was Carrie that did it. Now, remember, Carrie is a former prosecutor, so they know who she is. And they were like, she ain't no damn killer. What are they talking about? And they were like, well, who knows? You never know. You never really know people like you think you know them, While this is going on, child, Tariq made his Marissa and Brayden done got into a whole fight, and they are fighting. Now Marissa is whooping this chick's ass about these drugs. Brayden got his ass whooped. Tariq finally shows up, and Tariq was like, "What are you talking about?" And he takes Diana with him because he convinces Diana, because he ain't got no car child. He convinces Diana to give him a ride up to Stanford. Mind you, she said, "My mama gonna kill me," but she goes anyway. They get up there, and she tells him, like, "Listen, these drugs are trash. Like, I don't know where you got them from. I don't know what the deal is, but they are trash." So Diana and Marissa, they kind of get into a back and forth a little bit because, over Tariq, but not over Tariq, but over Tariq. And Brayden was like, "Monet gonna be mad." And of course, everybody's looking at him like, because Marissa says, "Well, who's Monet?" And of course, they all looking at him like, "The fuck? Like, you just always saying the wrong thing out your mouth." So Diana goes home, and of course, Monet ready to be mad and ready to cuss, but Diana was like, "Yo, we got a bigger problem. I went with Tariq up to Stanford because, listen, our drugs have been stepped on." Monet tests the drugs, and it is sugar, and she is not even mad. She was like, "Well, I guess we making a cake. I guess we out the business." And she blames it on Raheem or the other dude, the dude that she killed, okay? She thinks that he cheated her, and she's like, "Well, we out the game. We ain't got no connect. That was the last stash we had. I thought we was going to get our last little, piece of change to get out of here, but that's it. That's all, folks." And of course, Drew and Diana are looking like, "For real? Like, she ain't about to cuss nobody out? That's it?" So Drew, the next day, Drew is outside feeling sorry for himself, looking at all his old Instagram pictures of when he could draw. And Kane rolls up, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" And he was like, "Yo, I'm here to apologize. Like, I'm really still trying to make things right, but she ain't trying to hear me. Why don't you come with me?" So he takes him to the shooting range, and while they at the shooting range, he butters him up. And Drew lets him know that the stash was compromised, that they don't really have nothing, and that they just they need a new connect. And so Kane was like, "Hey, I might be able to help you out with that, but you're going to have to put in a good word because, Monet ain't trying to hear nothing I got to say." So, of course, here go Drew. He go running back to Monet to tell Monet that Kane might have a new connect, but y'all got to make things right. She ain't trying to hear it. She was like, "So you forgot that you just sitting up here with a whole bullet wound in your arm?" And he was like, "But look, it wasn't all Kane's fault. You know it wasn't all Kane's fault." So Monet was like, "Well, whatever. You might be able to forgive him, but I can't. I'm done. I'm out. It's all good." We see her meeting up with Lorenzo. It's their anniversary, and she is over it. She said, "Listen, when we got married, I know it's for better or for worse, but you've been sitting up in here in jail for 10 of our, for most of our marriage, and I'm over it. I'm sick of it." And so Lorenzo basically tells her, "Listen, get your shit together and put your big girl panties on." And she tells him about the whole connect situation, and that, Kane has a potential connect, but she don't even want to deal with him. And Lorenzo tells her, "Girl, bye. You better go make up with your son so we can get our business together." Because, like he said, you sitting up here talking about you over it and you tired, but you can't even keep the business together. Like, I'm gonna need you to go and make up with Kane and go do what you gotta do. And of course, she ain't trying to hear it, but she does. She goes over to Kane's girlfriend's house, and she makes up, invites him to dinner. And of course, Diana and Drew are like, "We just all one big happy family again." And so she's hooking up, she's going to hook up with the connect. Now, while this is going on, Zeke then broke up with Carrie. He told her, "Listen, I just think it's best that we just, not be together and we not spend no time together." And as soon as Zeke leaves, of course, here come the police detective. He done seen Zeke leave the apartment. And he's telling her, "Listen, you are our suspect." She said, "Well, maybe I need to get my attorney." He was like, "You can get your attorney all you want, but I did talk to your sponsor, and she told me that you were sleeping with Jabari and you sleeping with Zeke. You got a whole lot going on. You got motive, and we think you did it, and I'm going to prove it." And of course, she ain't trying to hear it. Now, Monet sees the red Camaro again playing New Edition, "Can You Stand the Rain?" But this time somebody gets out the car and it's a woman. So she's confused because she was like, I know that car. But that ain't it, right? Now Tariq decides that he's gonna plant the phone on Carrie. He goes to her office on that bullshit that Tariq be on, and Tate actually pulled Carrie out of the office. Now, what I didn't figure out is if this was part of a setup, like if Tariq and Tate had set this up so Tariq could be alone in her office, or if Tariq was just gonna take advantage of the moment, because Tate said like he was complaining about something that really wasn't that deep, really wasn't that important. But neither here nor there. Tariq looks at all the different places where he could plant the phone, but ultimately he decides he's not going to do it, and he doesn't leave the phone there. Because I was thinking to myself, they can do so many things with phones these days and technology that it's really not safe for you to leave that phone anywhere where anybody could find it, because you can delete all of the messages and all of that, but they can ultimately go back and track that shit. And in my mind, they would eventually find out that this was a burner phone texting another burner phone that they could connect to his mom. And then that whole, so I thought that was a good decision, because in my mind I was like, Tariq, this is really stupid if you decide to leave this here. Like, that's gonna be really dumb. Now, while all of this is going on, Diana decides that she's about to go talk to Marissa. And of course, Marissa was like, listen, if you hear about Tariq, you can have him. Like, I ain't even tripping. She said, child, please, I ain't hear about Tariq. But I do want to pick your brain. Like, you are smart. You are in college. You're balancing college and basically selling drugs. Tell me how you're doing it. And she tells Marissa what happened to their stash and everything. And Marissa was like, well, the first thing you need to do is figure out who had the most to gain. Like, in the scenario, who had something to gain from y'all stash being messed up? Like, if you feel like the drugs y'all got were legit to begin with, and then they got switched out somehow, who had access and who had anything to gain? Now, while we do that, we see Kane then took the drugs to Mecca. Kane was the one that switched out the drugs for the sugar. Why? Because now Monet needs him, and that's his way in. Now, Monet had just given him this whole speech about loyalty, and if you're gonna come back to the family, I need you to make sure that you're gonna be loyal to the family. And so Mecca is now side-eyeing Kane like, okay, I mean, on one hand, okay, cool, but on the other hand, like, I feel like in Mecca's mind, he's like, well, shit, if he'll sell out his family, I mean, I'm gonna use him for what I need him for, but ultimately, I don't know if I can trust you, bro. Now, Monet is, back at the house, minding her business, and somebody knocks over the trash can. And once again, I'm thinking to myself, that's a signal. That must be, because it meant something to her. Like, most people, they hear the trash can crash, they don't think nothing of, like, the wind knocked it over. But again, I was like, that must be some sort of signal. That's some sort of signal. I was like, okay. Stats lets Method Man know what the situation is with them thinking Carrie, killed Jabari. Later on that night, there's a bonfire, and Tariq throws the phone into the bonfire. Thank God, because again, he don't need to have that phone nowhere, no how. He runs into old girl from class, and she's like, well, let's get away from here. You always got so much going on. So she ends up taking Tariq to her little secret spot. It looks like some sort of rooftop that don't nobody know nothing about. According to her, nobody knows anything about it. And they get to talking and they get to kissing. And of course, here goes Tariq with a phone call again. He takes the phone call. He comes back to her, and she like, you know what, Tariq, I'm sick of this. Every time me and you get a little close, every time things look like they about to, be moving in the right direction with us, you get so distracted, and I'm over it. And he was like, man, come on, stop it. Like, and she was like, nah, I'm good. But while he's up there, he's looking around because Braden had just told him, listen, we need somewhere safe to put these drugs. Like, we got the re-up, but we need somewhere safe to put it. So he's looking around like, he got the call from Diana, sorry. He's looking around like, yo, this might be our new spot. Then we see Method Man going to visit Carrie. And again, I don't know. I forgot from last season how well they know each other, but he was there calling himself trying to help her. And she was like, I do not need your help, bro. Because, of course, he's trying to get that whole, retainer from her or whatever. Then, oh, child, we almost done. Then we see Jabari gets picked up And the police, the same detective, takes him down to the station, and he asking him about Carrie. And last but not least, we see Mary J. Blige show up at Junior's. And who is standing there? Mecca. And from their conversation, you could tell that they know each other. They were like high school sweethearts. They knew each other when they was kids. You know, the whole, he was like, oh, so you knew it was me. She was like, who else gonna be riding around blasting New Edition like it's 1998? Like, of course I knew it was you. And she said, listen, and he said, I didn't know you would know the signal. She was like, I remember the signal. She said, I just don't know why my daddy never figured out that you was running around here turning over the damn trash can all the time. She said, listen, I don't know what you want. I don't know why you around, but whatever it is too much water under that bridge. Too much time has passed. I can't do nothing for you. He was like, okay, well, I respect that, And then she walks off. I was like, we about to get some good stuff right here. He gives her his card and said, you change your mind if you ever need me, though. So she takes the card, but she walks off. I said, Like I said, something there, something ain't right. I don't know. Okay. And that's it, y'all. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Drop it in them comments. Peace.